My name's Andrew Pierre Hart. This is my work at the Whitechapel Gallery. The work is called Biodata Flows and Other Rhythms, a Local Story. So within the show we have a series of paintings, abstract and figurative. The abstract work express my experience of light, dark, kind of overlapping buildings and histories, and then the more figurative, kind of more direct stories. Engaged with a local called Richard, who is a restaurateur who works on Brick Lane. Yeah, we had lots of conversation, and I think that's what set off the actual show. So from that conversation, that was the springboard, and all the other ideas started to kind of spill out. So there's Richard, the main protagonist. If you can recognize the hat that I always wear, that's me. Then there's a kind of representation of a modern Bengali girl maybe. And then there's a tiger that's more of a representation of the Bengali spirit of standing up for oneself, or rebelliousness, or just holding their space. I really wanted to connect this idea of connecting with communities, Whitechapel, and its history. Yeah, the layered history of racial tension, but also much more how that has been sort of fought against, and people come together as a community through different epochs. That was very prominent for me. It relates to a lot of things that I'm kind of interested in as a person of colour. It starts off with the map of Whitechapel. All the colours are colours of flags that relate to the population. All these are influxes of people who have come to live in Whitechapel. And a lot of the immigrants found that Whitechapel was the first place they were going to because the water would lead them to the area. Within the painting, there's kind of a sense of water through blue, but also different nations being carried through the water, along the water, into Whitechapel. I make work with sound continually. I couldn't see any other way by having kind of musical background, by producing music and recording and having a record label. There was never a desire to separate that. That was what I went into the arts with as an art form. I work with assistants, draw it out, and then we all work together and fill it in, but it's quite a meditative process. It can play around ideas of landscape, space, clouds, pareidolia, and then also allowing the viewer to have their own take on things. There is a figure in black and white, so he's kind of from the past, and he's from the Windrush generation. And then we have a contemporary, quite tall, young adult. So the kind of grime scene, the music scene, because grime was invented around the corner. So there's a conversation between the two, this kind of cross-generational conversation between someone who would have probably come over with dub, reggae, ska, calypso, soca, high life, all these types of sort of African-related and Caribbean musics. And then how does that coalesce into a sound of today? What do I want them to take away from the show? I want people to think. I want them to have their own response, and that's what this offers, because it's quite open. So yeah, what they think of that is their own interpretation. So knowing that they have a voice within, and that their voice is just as valid as anyone else's in terms of art. It's just something that feels important for people to feel present And my work is much more about visibility and people being seen or seeing themselves or seeing something they recognize, even if it's just the colors of their flag.